Welcome to Build Out Brief. This is Jim Kunkel, and I so appreciate your support of the Build Out live stream that broadcasts each Wednesday at noon Eastern Daylight Time. The live stream that you're watching right now will be starting in just 1 minute. Let me take this opportunity to talk about Build Out Brief. This content series is a result of viewers like you who overwhelmingly requested that I add a supplemental series to Build Out that centers on professional business topics, is more focused, and global on guests. If you're thinking about starting a live stream, then StreamYard is a platform for you. It's what I use to build you Build Out Brief. After the stream, see the comment or the description section for my special savings referral link. Now, when it comes to having a professional live stream and winning over viewers, you need to make sure that your graphics and supporting promotional items are the best. All of the creative content for Build Out and Build Out Brief are designed and produced with Canva. You should check out Canva. See the comment or description section for my special Canva referral link. Huzaifa, welcome to Build Out Brief.
Hello, Jim. It's always nice to be back with you.
Before we would start our discussion regarding monetary and fiscal policy, could you provide a little background about yourself? Talk a little bit about your professional background and your businesses a little.
Yes, sure, Jim. I'm a paint manufacturer and a paint recycling company. We produce paints in Dubai, in India. We've got branches in Africa and very much present in the United States. We recycle a lot of paint. We work towards sustainability within the industry. And my major has been in economics and finance in my days of graduation. So along with the paint, this is always my first love where we are discussing about the finance and the markets.
Excellent. So let's open up and talk about monetary and fiscal policies. And let's look at each one. What are monetary policies for those that might not know what the terminology is?
Yes. So many a times people get confused between these two, monetary and the fiscal policy. These are tools by the central government and the central banks. And what we have in the monetary policy is basically, to make it very clear and very simple, these are controlled by the banks. And the banks, the money is controlled in the economy using the bank rates, using the statutory limits, and using the interest rates to control the flow of money in the economy. So when we talk about the monetary policy, we are talking about the circulation of money coming into the economy via way of debt. This is one part. And the other is the financial policy. Now, financial policy is with the taxes, the corporate taxes, the local taxes, the indirect, direct taxes. This is the revenue, the way government pulls it into its pocket from the masses and the people. This is one, but it also includes the government spending on the social securities, on education, on infrastructure projects, on making roads, bridges, dams, environmental causes. So these are two tools, I would say, the government holds to control the flow of money inwards and outwards.
So when we look at monetary policy, obviously it's dealing with interest rates and the supply of money that's in circulation. Here in the United States, we have a Federal Reserve System. Are they the body that's in control of monetary policies?
Yes. So what happens is that they control the banking system with respect to the rate of interest. When there is deflationary pressures in the market, whereby the market is going down or we feel it is going under recession or something, the bank lowers the rate of interest. This encourages people to go into debt and increase the money supply in the market and buy real estate, buy houses, take loans. So this is a tool of a monetary policy in case when the market is going down. Now, in the other event, when the markets are extremely high, the inflation is rising, like we've seen recently. I mean, the wood prices and the home prices and everything is becoming so difficult. This is again an effect of what happened in the year and a half. whereby a lot of money came into hands of so many different channels, through so many different channels, and this created a lot of inflation. You don't pay no rent, you don't pay no uh, credit card bills, you don't have to pay. There was a time. So people had that extra money, and plus you're receiving the unemployment benefits and the benefits of the stimulus checks. So a lot of money got accumulated, and there were not many places to spend the money. So the money always kept on accumulated, and then the markets opened 5 months, 6 months back. And then now we are closing to the Thanksgiving, Christmas, and all these things. And there is so much of money in the economy. Everything is high. The real estate is at the best thing. The stock market has reached the tops. The Bitcoin has seen the best of the time. The coin currencies. Now all this money that was accumulated and it did not go into the rents or the credit cards, and people have made so much of money. Obviously, there was so much of money being printed and distributed with the people is coming out into this particular thing, and we are seeing a hyperinflationary trend right now. So under these circumstances, increasing the rate of interest or those tools or stop the stimulus checks could control the supply of money. But again, this is a very risky game. In events like these, if you overdo it or if you do it the wrong way, the markets can crash. It is the people's sentiment that move along with it. It is your prediction. All this has eventually become a gamble. Bitcoin, a few years back, for an example, was a tool to exchange. But now it is a gamble. You're buying at 50,000, you're expecting it to go at 100,000. You're buying at 60, you think it's going to go 120. So you're hoarding, you're buying it for speculation. And when a speculation comes into the game, it is not a good end of it. And we've seen it in 2008, we have seen it in 1929, we've seen it in 1987, we've seen it over and over and over a period of time. Eventually, it becomes a bubble and everything crashes.
And on top of that, when you're looking at obviously monetary policy, you have fiscal policy, which obviously it deals with taxation and government spending. It's all controlled by the legislation. For example, here in the United States, we have a Congress that will vote to raise debt ceilings, borrow more money, print more money, and you have that dynamic going between the monetary policies and the fiscal policies, which can wreak havoc as well. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And if you see all the history, United States of America is the largest debtor. The government is the largest debtor in the entire world, perhaps the largest debtor in the entire universe. The amount of debt that we have accumulated and the amount of loans we have towards against the bonds and borrowings and spending to create a market, it is enormous. It is huge. But then this has always worked in favor of the economy. We've been able to be the world number one until date because of the very smart and very effective financial decisions that we've been taken. We are able to communicate this, and we are spreading inflation into the entire world because dollar is an international currency. Now, this again is a very interesting topic, that how a company in Japan who wants to buy a product from iron ore, for example, from India, has to pay in the American dollars. So the company in Japan requires the American dollars. So there are two ways of getting it. Either they borrow it, or they do that much of higher exports. So the demand of dollar is increasing. And it is because of the demand that we've created in the international market due to the petrodollar thing, or due to dollar being an international currency, we do not have so much of a problem of inflation or getting this thing burst, or the dollar is going to become useless, or there are so many things that we are worried about. But there is more dollar in other parts of the world than there is dollar in United States. Yeah. So this is a global problem if the inflation comes up.
And the thing with it too is Milton Friedman in the late 1960s talked about, money growth rule. And we are actually living through what his rule was and where it could go the wrong way, where you're printing pretty much unlimited amounts of money. And to your point earlier too, everything being based on the American dollar is a benefit for the United States at this time, But if that were to change, if we were not to be the world currency, that will create a havoc that we've never seen in our lifetime since the Great Depression of the late 1920s into 1930s. Where do you see everything kind of heading with the unlimited amounts of money that's out there and rising inflation, and now also too mix on top of that the shortages of goods and products?
I will give you a very good example of this. I have some statistics with me. Some figures of 1970 compared to 2021. In 1970, the average rate of a house was $22,600. You could buy a house at this price. In 2021, this rose to $348,000 for a normal house, which was affordable. And then the second item is gold. Gold in 1970 was $35 an ounce, which now is almost $1,800 an ounce. The third item I would like to compare is oil. A barrel of crude oil was $3.5 a barrel in 1970, is now $75. So when you compare these three figures together, for example, in 1970, I would have converted all my cash into gold. I would perhaps have needed 645 ounces of gold to buy a house in 1970. But today, due to this the gold has done extremely well in a long term, I would need only 193 ounces to buy a house. So 645 ounces of gold in 1970, and today 193 ounces of gold in 2021. So I need lesser gold to buy a house. Gold has appreciated tremendously compared to the real estate Similarly, I would need 7,867 barrels of crude oil. Now this is just an example. To buy a house in 1970, today I would need 4,640 crude barrels, lesser crude barrels. So had I invested into gold or crude oil in 1970, I would have been much better off. Now this is a very simple example covering the perspective of how dollar has depreciated over a period of 50 years. The reason being, one of a very, very, very strong reason being, in 1971, on August 15th, President Nixon took dollar off the gold standard, meaning which all the other treasuries around the world, in their lockers, they had gold as a reserve currency. We replaced gold and we replaced it with a printing press. So we could have an unlimited amount of supply of currency going out in the market. This has resulted in the last 5 years, we've printed so many dollars we have not printed in the last 5,000 years. In the name of pandemic or stimulus check or helicopter money or to save the economy or unemployment checks, we have so much of money in the economy. And this is the reason why we have got hundreds of vessels stuck on all the ports of United States. There's so much demand of the money, so much demand of the products, and lesser goods in such a small span of time. Inefficiency of the manufacturing corporations to get so many products into the market because there is so much of demand. Now, this is one very simple example I explained you between the real estate, the gold, and the oil. Now, when you compare this in the international market, let me, for example, take India as an example. In 1947, India got independence. Now, I have two currencies over here with me. Now, this on this side you see is the American dollar. This one American dollar was equal to 1 Indian rupee. In 1947, these both guys were absolutely same. Now, in 1970, 1 American dollar was equal to 7.5 Indian rupees. Now, we have seen the kind of inflation from 1970 to 2021, where a house of 22,600 becomes 248,000, and gold jumps from 35 to 1800. And this currency in 1970 was 7.5 against $1. Today, Indian rupees is 75. So 75 times the inflation this currency has got. Now, we have seen in the studies of the similar situations with Venezuela, with Zimbabwe, in the past with the Greek economy, with Hungary, the money becomes worthless. An Indian rupee has become worthless to an extent, but not as bad, where you have to take trillions of dollars and go and buy a loaf of bread or a can of milk. Not that impossible stage. And that stage may not come also, because now many foreign banks have tied their currency with American dollars. Now, American dollar has always been so strong. The reason being, there is always a demand for it. Somebody in Japan wants American dollars to buy goods from Congo or South Africa or Canada. So the demand is always there. And it is because we have kept the demand so high, no matter how much we keep on printing, we are exporting the American dollar and we are exporting inflation also. So this is a general example how the entire world is sharing the inflation that we are creating.
Yeah, when we look at the reaction to the pandemic, when the pandemic really started to kick in the past here in the States, when we would have times of recession, we would stimulate the economy, put stimulus checks out, basically zero interest rates. We would kind of flood the market and the economy with some currency. Like you said, we would print it. This time we had a strong economy going into a pandemic, and we literally shut down. Then we overstimulated by stimulus checks, low interest rates, pumping money into the economy. And then as things are starting to get back, now we find ourselves in a whole new, and I've heard economic professionals say this before, we're in a whole new territory now. We've got, I don't know, we're up to $28 trillion in debt, national debt, and it seems impossible to find a way to escape all this right now. Where do you see things heading to? Or how is there a way to get out from underneath this mountain of debt?
Yes. So where the entire global macro economy is concerned, trust me, it is nobody's problem. We are never paying that debt. It will just go on increasing for unlimited amount of time. And how much ever arguments we have in the Congress, but the stimuluses and the bills will always be passed. The government has to keep on running. We can never shut down. That is never an option. No matter what, we can have a debate and argument on so many things. We can have dates, November, December, January. We only have money until December. We will always have money, and the printing will always continue. This is one part of a macro side of a story. Now, when it comes to a micro, an individual who's receiving stimulus check, who's receiving more money sitting in the house than what he was perhaps making when he was going to the work. Now, this is a different ball game altogether. We have never seen this. Education is something that is absolutely significant in this point of time. Education about money. What is the role of money? What is the currency of money? What changed in 1971? How much money we had before? How much money we had now? The poor who's receiving the stimulus checks gets the payment, doesn't have to pay rent, doesn't have to pay the credit card, doesn't have to pay the loans for this 2 years' time, goes and invests the money in the stock market, in Bitcoin, in real estate, and these assets which temporarily look absolutely amazing, and everything goes high. So no matter how much money is fed into the communities who deserve it, that money is again sucked by the magnets, and it eventually ends up into the pockets of the rich. And when all the bubble bursts, the riches are secure, they become much more richer, and the poor middle class stays there where he is, or perhaps the gap even widens. Now, this is because of the education about the money. Lack of education about the money, wrong investments, wrong style, not knowing the basics can have crushed empires in the past, and we've seen what happened in Greece.
Definitely. And we're, in a way, we've seen that through the pandemic, where you had certain companies seem to be the ones that were the recipients of growth and phenomenal profits, where you had small and medium-sized businesses literally fold up and go under because no one could go to work, or everything was locked down. We're talking kind of about right now the power of privilege. And to your point earlier, this burdens heavily on the middle and lower class, because as gas prices rise, as food prices rise, it's going to impact the middle and lower classes to be able to afford a daily living. How do we unwind what's going on right now? Is there a way to change, and what will it take to change?
Yeah. The current education system, the current trainings, and the current channel and the path that we are following is leading us towards debt. More and more of debt. And more of debt moving forward. I'm not against the banking system. I'm also not against the debt system. But I strongly believe in your individual equity. I strongly believe into upliftment of the medium and small scale businesses for development of any country. In this pandemic, what we've seen, the medium and the small scale business have as good as wiped off. The larger corporations have been succeeded tremendously very well. In the previous depression when we had, the larger corporations were bailed out. The smaller and the business people got punished. In this time, this is not the exact scenario. Nobody's got punished. But the larger corporations have more blessings, have more tools, and are better equipped to be far more ahead in the race. Now, just a very small example, I do not invest in the stocks and the shares. I'm not in that. I have a few friends of mine, and I regularly have arguments with them. And my basic argument with them is that if you're buying share of Microsoft, you are not going to become Bill Gates. You buy share of Facebook, you are not going to become Mark Zuckerberg. Your business will lead you there. Investing in somebody else's business may not lead you there. Now you have an opportunity of riding the horse you're sitting on. So bet on the horse you're sitting on. Now if you believe that what if the times go bad? If I've invested my money in those stock companies, I am secure. Watch what you're saying. Means you don't trust yourself. You don't trust your own business. So you trust the guy who you have not seen. You don't know the balance sheet. You don't know the insights of a company, and you put your money there. But the horse that you're riding, your own business, you don't have trust on it. So the medium scale, the small scale, the shop owners, the paint dealers, the transporters need to put the money where their mind is. This is one very strong message that I have for the business people all around.
Well, in a way, you're going counter to what they teach you and what they tell you to do. They tell you to go out and buy stocks, and you want to get the Facebook and the Amazon and everything like that. Yes. I'm an investor myself, so I follow the same rules that everyone's followed. But your point, I can see why you have some people that do kind of get upset with you. You're basically saying, listen, you need to believe in yourself, invest in your own company, invest in yourself. That's where you're going to see the greatest return for yourself. So that's great advice to give. So I can understand why some people get upset with you.
Yes, absolutely.
Changes and try to bring things into the solution. Now, sustainability, environmental advantages, and everything is related to this particular concept of technology. And this is directly related with the increase in technological advances and the increase in the money supply. There is a direct increase of the carbon dioxide emissions. Now, how this goes, to start with, that the financial times under which everything is possible. The economic era, we are equipped with the fiat currencies empowering unlimited access to extraction of the natural resources, where we are able to create a better lifestyle. The correlation of technology with economy affects the ecology in a way that initially before the Industrial Revolution, we used to produce, for example, 100 umbrellas, for instance. Now, with the help of the economic advantage, industrial advantage, we are now able to create 10,000 pieces of umbrellas. Technically, with the 10,000 pieces of umbrellas, the price of the umbrella should have gone down. But 7,500 years and today, the price of the umbrella is several folds higher. Now, how does this happen? This is because money is multiplied several times. So, there is a lot of money chasing lesser goods, hence creating inflation. Since the fiscal and the monetary system is no longer backed by anything, it is a fiat currency since 1971. It is directly dependent on the GDP, which is the gross domestic product of a country. So the more you produce of something, the price goes down. Hence, we can see on the chart, it is directly related with the printing of money. It's directly related to the carbon dioxide emissions. This is a very fascinating new angle of sustainability, which has never been seen before. I've written a couple of articles in a couple of magazines that explains the entire process. The entire article is dedicated to this. This is a very short glimpse to bring it to you that it is nobody's fault. It is the economic system that has put pressure on the industries to produce more so that it doesn't run into an inflationary.
Huzaifa, that was an awesome video. If you could go into a little bit more depth and detail of what we just saw.
Yes, yes, Jim. So it was a very short video of a very elaborate topic. Technology. Technology helps us produce more in lesser time and at a lesser cost. And over a period of time, the technology only increases and increases. Increase in a technology is deflationary in nature, meaning which a company that was producing, for example, 100 units a week, by using a higher technology, more capital goods, more better infrastructure, is now able to produce 10,000 units per week. So, meaning which you can get more goods in the market. So if there is more supply of a particular product in the market, it is very obvious the basic fundamental of economics, the price must go down. But you see in this 5 decades, the price has never come down of nothing. From your shoes, to your coats, to your clothes, to your phones, to anything, to traveling, the prices have always gone up. And the reason behind this is the supply of extra money, the inflationary trend that has kept this particular. Now, this tool, the larger corporations producing mobile phones, they're launching a new phone every year. And you see the price of a phone goes up by $100, $200, $300. Now, this should not be the case. This is absolutely opposite to the economic law of technology, which is deflationary in nature. Technology also eats away lot of employment. The more and more advancement, now that again increases deflation. But what you see in the market is absolutely opposite. Now, this is a direct result of the more money chasing lesser goods. This is increasing the prices. Now, what happens on this? I had given that particular lecture in as a sustainability topic. The pressure comes onto a manufacturer to increase the production supply because there is more money chasing lesser goods. We are creating so much of waste, and this is increasing more pressure on the environment. So this is a connection of technology, environment, and economy. So with increase of a money supply, it is not just only an indirect tax. It not only makes you poor to an extent, but it also takes away a lot of environmental stress, a larger carbon footprint. And that in the diagram you see how much carbon footprint we had previously, and then after the increase money supply, everything goes parabolic, and you see through the roof. So increase in the carbon footprint was directly related to the increase of the money supply, and the pressure on the manufacturers and the government to again have a circular economy in place. So which is why we as a paint manufacturer, we have a totally different corporation and foundation that works on the recycling processes, that works and tries to balance the entire ecosystem. This is one part of the story. And then with extra money that is being flowed, what you discussed, we have seen a huge amount of inflation. There may be a nominal increase in the wages, but then they are not sufficient enough to compensate the increase in the pricing. And in this battle, the increasing prices will always win the game. And the person on the wage with lower education and lesser resources to save himself will always be the loser in the game, which again is an indirect tax, because the government does the deficit financing or the borrowing when they have to spend more in the economy and the collection from the revenue from the tax is lesser. The economy on a general develops, but the individual guy who is working 9 to 5, has got limited resources, becomes comparatively poorer year by year. So this is one topic we covered, Jim, on how inflation makes you marginally poor. And there is last thing, if you want to cover this, that how China become a superpower by selling goods to America. Because one side we have the debtor, which is the United States, who's printing currency and distributing, and on the other side you have China, who's playing the game of a supplier, global supplier, who's in possession of a huge amount of US debt and the bonds and things that he's able to buy so many more things. And the growth in China is phenomenal. I mean, China 2 decades ago and China today, it's absolutely different. You see the cities, you see the skyscrapers. I've been there, seen there both the times. You see a huge amount of development. Obviously, things are different now. The bubbles are bursting because they perhaps went into the depth and the cycle and the gambling process that we are not so much into right now. It is 44 times. The house rate is 44 times the salary of a person annually. In US, it is 6 times, 7 times, 8 times, and we are complaining. So you could imagine the amount of bubble, the gamble that is being created by the banking system in China. And you will see, and we see, the sufferers of the game are the normal people who have invested into the real estate, hoping it to grow. And once that growth stops and people start feeling things are going to come back, everything comes down falling.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, if you really look at China has become the global manufacturer, especially for the United States. And the other thing, too, is China's been involved with the Belt and Road initiatives. So they've done some major investments in infrastructure in other countries. Obviously, there is a price to pay for that investment in those countries. But to see exactly how things are currently impacting literally every economy in the globe right now, where we're at, we've got a labor shortage on skilled labor. We've got challenges when it comes to the distribution, shipping. Earlier we were talking about the cargo containers, the cargo ships that are literally off the shores of Los Angeles that have been there, some for weeks waiting to get unloaded. And the cost of shipping containers are just through the roof right now. It's so expensive to ship product. There's so many things going on right now, and we're kind of in an uncharted waters right now, because we reacted a certain way because of a pandemic. We weren't sure exactly what was going to happen, and sometimes when you react a certain way, you might go a little too far. And then when you have this dynamic between monetary and fiscal policy going on, now we find ourselves here in the States about raising debt limits, creating these $1 trillion government programs instead of looking and breaking things down into smaller bite-sized pieces and try to understand it. And then you've got the CBO, they're going and they're kind of looking at what's the impact of this particular bill or these legislative initiatives. And again, a lot of times they're not even sure exactly what the major impact's going to be. But if we're going to continue printing money, that rate you gave is going to grow higher and higher. I remember, when I bought my house, my second house I bought was in 2000, and what it's worth now is phenomenal from what it was when it was in 2000. Now that's good for me if I go to sell, but guess what? If I go to sell and move, I can't even afford a new house, even an older home, at the prices they're going for right now. I've seen houses in my plan go on the market and be gone in a couple of days. They're being bought up.
This is what happens when the economy is on debt. It becomes difficult, and there will very soon be a stage whereby you will have more renters than buyers. Previously, housing was a tool to sell you a loan. Business was a tool to sell you a loan. Now it is getting more and more expensive. In China, it's 44 times. We are at maybe 7, 8, 9. We are still better off, but we are still screaming that it is getting difficult and difficult. With more money in the economy, more inflation going high, wages not being as good as the inflation, the capacity is going to get lower and lower to buy the things. And guess what? Where the solution is? Debt. So more and more debt makes you more and more poor. And this is a cycle. We are all framed to work like that, and the system doesn't look to be improving any further soon.
You're 100% right. It's hard to say that, but it's the truth.
Yes.
Huzaifa, I appreciate this opportunity to have this conversation. I think hopefully you and I could get back together from time to time and maybe talk about other things related to the economy, and talk about also too about sustainability and business topics as well. So I would definitely like to have you back on Build Out Brief again.
Absolutely, Jim. It is always always a pleasure working with you, discussing with you, and we covered some very good topics today for the business people, from finance, monetary policy, fiscal policy, international dollar, inflation, technology inflation, and with examples of currencies all around the world.
Exactly.
And this is a wonderful rupee. If you see the numbering on this.
Yeah.
This is a unique. This is 786,999. So this is about 70-year-old printed. I got it from my grandmom, and this is a rare collection. I don't know how many millions it should be worth.
Oh wow.
Yeah. With inflation.
We don't have these anymore. We don't have these anymore today.
Okay.
We don't have. Today we have a 2000 rupee note. This is one, and we don't use it anymore.
Okay.
Not even in the coins, I believe.
It's collectible now. Huzaifa, how do people people get in contact with you? Do you have social media, website?
Yeah, sure. I'm available on thepainfoundation.com. That is my non-profit website. I have articles, posts, podcasts, things written on that we work alongside. regionpaintusa.com would be my Region Paint website. And I'm active on LinkedIn. So these are very limited places where you can find me.
Very good. Huzaifa, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And have a good rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Jim. It's a pleasure.